Okay, in this video, I'm going to be talking about upgrading Grails. So, say you're on an older version of Grails, say, the 2.0 line or, even further, the 1.0 line. Uh, what you have to think about with upgrading. So, typically, upgrading in Grails has not had the best story, just because upgrading even minor versions has had, some issues because it's the framework itself has gone through a lot of rapid change and development just because of all the things that have changed in the Groovy community over the years. I think from this point out, Grails 3 is a little bit more stable, and I think things will probably change less drastically. There'll be more features and profiles, but the upgrade path itself hopefully will be come a little bit easier. But if you're upgrading from, say, like a Grails 2. Like I actually did an upgrade from 2.4.2 to 3.1, 3.0.1.1, 3.11, and it went fairly smoothly. I had a few issues, things I had to figure out, and stuff like that, but I didn't the bulk of the work in about a week. Um, but that was also a very, I would say, kind of an immature application. Like, it wasn't doing a whole lot. It hadn't been around for like, say a years. So, uh, and it didn't do a lot of coloring outside the line. So it didn't do a lot of specific like spring configurations or things of that nature. So it was relatively easy to upgrade. Now, if you have an application that's been around for a long time and has developed a lot of technical debt and uses a lot of special configurations to work around Grails, you might come into more issues than you would otherwise. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So I'm just going to go through a few things that I noticed that I didn't think were in the initial upgrade guide, but there is an upgrade guide, and that's something you should definitely look at before going to upgrade. One thing I noticed was since Log4j is gone, this annotation works good for basically if you have classes that fall outside your application. Obviously, if you're in services and controllers, you can just use the log that's injected into those and just use that and you'll be fine. But if you have like logging with objects that are created outside of the Grails app, I found this annotation actually seemed to work to mitigate that. Also, if you want to modify where your war is actually created and what it's called, you can set its name and destination. I believe you set this in the build config, or build, I should say the build.gradle. Another thing is the AST transform at validable has been replaced with a trait. So, basically you'll just swap those out. Instead of having the annotation, you'll have the trait. Not a huge deal, especially if you're not using command objects, which, since domain controllers have become are able to be used as command objects, I think that will actually drive down the uses of command objects. I've never been a big fan. I kind of see them as a middleman. Basically, it binds your, the parameters into like that object. So, if you use them, you'll have to swap out that. Controllers no longer have the interceptor closures in them, like the before interceptor, the after interceptor. Grails 3 has its own interceptors, which are a little, I would say, a little bit better. It's basically meant to replace filters from Spring Security 2, or not Spring Security, Grails 2. And with the filters, I remember they were deprecated, but there's a way to bring them back via plugin, if I'm not mistaken. But that being said, I would say you should probably move your interceptors and update your filters to be Grails 3 interceptors, which have like a lot of the same type of you know aspects that other Grails objects have, like you can inject services and things of that nature. So that's something to definitely look into. And one thing I noticed, and this might have been a bug and may have been fixed, but when I was actually upgrading, I found that if you had like relative and I didn't really show this, but if you had like templates or views and they were referenced with like say dot dot slash whatever the view name is and things like that, it would break. And basically everything is relative to the view controller. So if you just do slash whatever controller name slash view.gsp, whatever that actual naming is, and actually start it with the slash, it would work better than if it wouldn't have the error. So that's just something to keep in mind. Also, let's just look at the guide itself. So there's a lot of things in here that they go through. They're going from upgrading from 2.x, because hopefully no one's still using the 1.x line and has at least upgraded to 2. That is a little bit of a leap in itself, and I think there is an upgrade guide out there for that, if I'm not mistaken, or at least there was at one point. So a lot of things that have changed are some of the various placements, things I showed you and talked to you about as I went through. The fact that there's no Gantt, it's now Gradle, things like that. There's no longer log4j, it's logback. There is the configuration.yaml, but we've seen how to override that with our application.groovy and not have to deal with that. Things that are just no longer present because they're not needed, like site mesh, which was something else. There is no longer a web XML. Basically, anything that you would have done with the web XML, I would look up like how to do it with Spring, which is what they say here. Plugins have been upgraded. This goes through how to upgrade the plugins. So those are just some considerations that you'll have to think about when you upgrade. Also, probably one of the biggest considerations is if you have specialized Gantt scripts for building your application. That's going to be probably the hardest thing to upgrade if you have like something that's does more than what Grails does by default, because you're going from Gantt to Gradle. But other than that, I didn't find a lot of huge things. There was some like packages that change, so you'll have to go through those. If you use IntelliJ, that'll make things a lot easier to find and batch update and stuff like that. And that's pretty much all I want to say about upgrading. It's not insurmountable, but it depends on the size of your project and how long it's been around, whether or not it's going to be worth it for you to upgrade. And like I said before, the 2.x line is it's in maintenance mode now, so basically it might make sense to dedicate a good chunk of time, update your application, do some thorough regression tests, and then just move on with it. Let's see. So yeah, that's pretty much all I want to say about upgrading. So if you want to upgrade, that's what you'll have to do. It kind of is what it is. So next, in the next video, I'm going to be talking about just some resources and where you can find more information, and I think that'll be the video that I'll just wrap up this series on. So till next time.